Welcome to the DevReady Podcast, where we're helping non-techs build better tech. Today we're joined by Matt Whyatt. He's the founder of Tech Talk, and he's focused all on sales and marketing. So today will be quite a bit of a deep dive into sales and marketing, how we better position ourselves as tech businesses to sell more products, benefit more people within the spaces and targets that we're looking to benefit. Matt, thanks for joining us.
Oh, an absolute pleasure, Andrew.
Yeah, no, it's been a pleasure. We met a little while back, and this podcast has been in the works for some time. Cancellation, but we're here finally.
Very good.
Matt, tell us a bit about your background, because I always like to dig in before we dig into the topic at hand, just so people get an understanding of who you are and your experience in the space.
Rightio. Well, I'm sure a lot of the viewers and listeners will look at me and go, what's that old guy going to be able to teach me about sales and marketing? Certainly in the tech space, we're building the best tech and we've got the best team, and we're better, faster, cheaper than everybody else. So what's this guy going to teach me? But look, so my background. Started my first software business when I was 22 with a friend. And in that time, and so all over those years, and you can tell that I'm a little bit older than 22 now. So
just a few years older, yes.
Just a couple of years. So during that time, I've always just been the sales guy. So I'm the one, you can probably call me if you want to call me the lead singer of my businesses. So, there's a lot of things that occur inside the business that actually make a successful software business. Mm-hmm. And, we grew that business reasonably well. We got to about 70 staff across most of the Eastern Seaboard, from product sales to services sales. We were importing products from overseas and redistributing them. So a whole bunch of different things. And through that time, I continued to recruit and work with really, really talented marketers. So that's been more than 23, 24 years doing sales and software and technology, and sold pretty much everything from products for a couple of $100 SaaS all the way through to $1 million installations to multi-billion dollar, or the second or the largest mining company in the world. So I've done a lot of things. Throughout that time, I sold a business about 9 years ago and had a year off in Bali, and so just chilled out with the family. Not a bad place to have
a year off. Yeah,
it was nice actually. And then when we came back, because there's only so much Bali one can take before you get infected with Bali. You could become really comfortable to live there.
Yeah, I know. Just everything slows right down, doesn't it, over there?
Yeah, man, absolutely, it really does. So we came back, and I got a call from a friend saying, "Hey, I need help with my sales room." And so I helped that, and then found myself just doing consulting, going from one consulting gig to another, invited to advise on various panels and boards, that type of thing. And a couple of years ago, I was consulting in the sales space, and I was building these really great sales engines, but without fuel, an engine's not going to go very well, and fuel is marketing. Fuel is that incoming lead or lead inquiry. So I partner with somebody who's been doing marketing for 16 years in the tech space in Australia, and we launched Tech Talk. So there you go, 20 years in a couple of minutes.
In a couple of minutes, yeah. So obviously quite a bit of experience in selling anything across, or quite a variety of different products, services across technology, hence why we thought you'd bring on the podcast and just share a little bit about your experience and some of the things that you found have worked for you. When we're, like you said, there might be someone that's out there that's listening that's got a great tech team building product, but in the end, if we're building a product, A, that people may want, that's a great start.
Yep.
And then B, we need to actually communicate that to them and actually get them on side and understand their needs, how they're communicated to, what they're going to understand as a business owner, as a marketing person, whatever it might be, their end role is, like who the target customer is. So it's really important to get this right, because without sales and marketing done correctly, the product's going to linger and have its challenges. So today I just want to dig in a little bit on that. But yeah, in terms of marketing and sales, you're the sales guy. The marketing person is?
So we've actually through COVID, the property market boomed, and so Tracy,
Yes.
she actually retired and handed that capability over to the rest of the team. So it's not just me in the business. Once again, I'm the lead singer of the band, and there's a whole bunch of really talented musicians and roadies and managers and projects, and all of that sits underneath or next to me to be able to deliver what I talk about. So now I've got a team of really talented people. We've got one lady who at one stage was the most awarded marketer in Australia back in the late 90s, early 2000s. So I've got just an incredible team of highly talented marketers. And as I said, we only focus on software and technology. And so when somebody wants to talk about really deep cut techo things like DevOps, or want to talk about Kubernetes or something that most people won't know about,
They can have the conversation with you. Yeah, brilliant.
We've actually got a bit of context there, so we can say, well, your digital platform manager is somebody you need to talk to rather than the CEO, or that type of thing. So we can shortcut a lot of the process, because you don't really want to have a local marketer who sells shoes and does sells microphones and selling your technology, because you're just going to get too broad or too vague a targeting or too vague a message. So
marketing does need to be poignant. So let's dig in a little bit. I always like to start with challenges. What are some of the things you see with businesses that come to you? What are the gaping holes that they have within their structure? What are some of the challenges that you might find when you're looking to sell and market something?
Look, I think that the challenge, one of the challenges, and I'll go through, there's a few of them, but one of the big challenges is technical people are really capable of building technical things, and they do some really amazing work in solving some genuine issues in the marketplace. The problem is, I guess the greatest problem or the greatest fallacy that's been put out there in the world is, if you build a better mousetrap, the world will beat a path to your door. And
you learn that little lesson pretty quickly.
Well, some people never learn it, because they sort of sit there and with their arms folded, and they go, well, how are they? They've got a much worse product than us. How are they selling more? And then you present to them saying, well, here's all their marketing and sales material and brochures, and it talks to the problems. Yeah, but we're better.
Yeah, okay. That's just not understanding what the gap is. Get it?
Yeah, that's one problem. The other thing is a lot of technical people have made by choosing a technical route, have almost subconsciously or consciously chosen to not be a salesperson, because they've seen The Wolf of Wall Street, or they've been had some experience with a salesperson in the past and gone, that's not me. I reject everything to do with that. Following up is icky. Pushing myself forward is too hard. I don't want to be part of that. So I've got a thing. They can come to me.
Yeah. All right. I think I started out that way. Doesn't work very well though. Yeah. So yeah, I found some of our best clients have been some that have come back, or you continuously talk to over a period of time, and 3 years later, you get a great project or a great product that you're involved in building or something, because we're obviously a tech business. But yeah, the follow-up is pivotal. Just being front and center is pivotal. Without that, you just get thrown into forgetfulness. If you meet someone 2 years ago, there's no way they're going to remember you. They're going to see the first 2 or 3 people they see at that time, or ask for a reference. That's generally what happens.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. So in terms of the challenges there, so they're too technical. They build it, hope for people to come along. Don't want to jump into sales, so they avoid it. So do you recommend them bringing on someone into the team that can actually enable that, or do you think people need to dig in and really step up to it?
Yeah, good question. I want to talk about one other challenge that that's technical businesses have, or software and technology businesses have, and that's around the we can solve everything for everybody problem. So people will build a really great solution, and then when you say, so who is this for? They go, oh, look, everybody can use really great standard operating procedures and workflows in their business. And you go, okay, but who is it for? And they go, well, it's for everybody. And if you try to be something for everybody, then what typically businesses find is they're nothing to anybody. So that is specificity and niching, and it's and I've only been saying the same thing for 20 years, and certainly in the last 7 since I've been doing consulting is be really narrow, because the more narrow you are, the more specific you can be. You can actually talk to those problems really, really well. The challenge there is there's a fallacy that you're going to miss out on large chunks of the market by saying we're for these people. So when I first started Tech Talk, when I first started in business, that people were saying, "Oh, well, you've got to be a general marketer. You want to go to networking meetings and just say you do marketing because you've got capability. Hey, Matt, you could help a real estate company as much as you could help a software company. Why don't you just be a general consultant?" I did that for about 2 weeks, and I realised that there's a lot of general out there. And also,
that was quick to learn that in 2 weeks. Some people take
I'd already
10 years.
I guess you could also say that I'd had 15 years prior to that in software and technology, and I just really like software and technology people. I couldn't. Probably, last time I wrote a line of code was 20 years ago, but I like software. It just makes a lot of sense to me. I like technology. I love technology. I'm down the rabbit hole with NFTs at the moment, which is, so it's a pretty deep cut.
It's a very big rabbit hole, but anyway,
it's a rabbit hole and a half, I tell you.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I agree totally on the niching side. Our core business is probably a little bit general, which becomes problematic, and then how do you communicate that? We're starting to niche that down. But then we also have a SaaS product which is specifically targeted to the pharmacy industry. Much easier to understand the industry, understand who's who in the zoo. Actually, once you intertwine into an industry, for example, you get how it all connects and works together, and you realise how small an industry like that can be. So, then you can have different conversations. You get known in the space. It actually opens up different opportunities in one space. So it just changes the game a little bit in terms of how you might approach things. So that business is impacting our area, which is our core business. Even the SaaS product is ticking along. Yes, we're looking to expand it, but it's also adding value to the core business. So it's very interesting how niching can make a big difference to what you're doing. Yeah,
I love it. I love having that conversation, because once somebody gets it and they realise they can go, if you're 1 inch wide and a mile deep, you're way better off, because that means you can immediately ask for more money. You can immediately provide some perspective on the things you've done in the last 5 years. If you've been doing one thing for the last 5 years really well, then you can cut to the core of the issue really fast, and the customer believes you, likes you, trusts you way faster. And you're able to create results for the customer way faster.
That's an interesting point, because obviously we're talking to non-techs building technology, and it's all about product, but people that end up in, I think the challenge is when you end up in services like you've carved out a niche, but most people don't. They do stick in a generalized feel, and then that general... But that can be for a software SaaS product too, and that's where some people get a little bit stuck too. They build a CRM, one of the 10,000 that exist, and they just target to everybody, and that's a good way to fail fast. So there's a bit in that. And
one of the big challenges is that there's a couple of 3 or 4 really big and successful businesses in Australia, Atlassian and Canva, for example, who have gone to market without any obvious and overt marketing. The thing is, how those businesses actually succeeded is they didn't make a B2B sale. They made a B2C sale. They made a business to customer sale. They recognized that they were solving a problem for one dev or a problem for one marketer. Then that marketer or dev then took it to their team, their manager. They moved companies. They said, we used this before, and it grew from there. So they actually went bottom up. So when tech companies come to me and say, look, we don't want to do any marketing or sales, well, they wouldn't come to me, but when I have conversations with them online, we don't want to do marketing or sales. We're amazing. We want to be like Atlassian or Canva. Then we need to completely change the business model and identify how much money it's going to cost you to execute on that strategy.
It is a different strategy, because yes, you do need to be selling and marketing if you're selling B2B. B2C, it's a completely different space. It is.
A good example of that is I'm working with a customer. Working with a customer who sells to farmers. Funnily enough, you just mentioned that. And what we did is we identified that I said, because we identified there's going to be a B2C play, even though other farmers are businesses and they've got pretty big businesses with significant expenses. What do you do there? So I thought, well, who's a famous farmer? Jeremy Clarkson. So what we did is we actually what they do is they take satellite images. I won't go into it, but essentially we tweeted at Clarkson, because Clarkson's got Clarkson's farm. He doesn't just drive cars and blow stuff up. He's on a farm and blows stuff up. And so so we tweeted to him. He responded, and we connected with their agronomist, and the agronomist has signed up, and now we've got a foothold in the UK through that execution. But that is a pure B2C play. Well, if you think about sales, how I like to think about sales, rather than B2B and B2C, I'm using it because everybody in the audience probably understands those terminologies, but I actually like to think human to human, H to H, because a company doesn't sign a check. Oh, nobody signs checks anymore. A company doesn't raise a purchase order or engage with you in your company. What they do is a digital platform manager buys from you, who's got a life and a whole bunch of things going on in their life and problems that keep them awake at night. And that's what you've got to talk to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and those problems are very unique, especially when you go on niche, but generalised, the problems are very general. So it's hard to penetrate. So exactly. In terms of, I'm thinking about, I'm developing SaaS products. If we want to really grow this thing, what are some key areas that we want to focus in, tackling on to grow a business in the tech space? Got it.
So look, I like to break it down into three key areas for growth. Obviously, we do talk about strategy and growth, but we can park that for the moment. That's probably a much bigger and different conversation than this one. But once you understand your strategy, once where you're going, then it becomes tactical really fast. And in tactical, you need to think about so we start with B for brand, and we start with brand and brand positioning. And what does your brand stand for? And before you go out to market to say what you stand for, you've got to actually stand for it internally. So you've actually got to have a conversation in the business, and it's okay to put the ideas out there to your team. What do we stand for? Who are we? What are we helping here? What problem are we solving? And then once we understand that becomes a guiding light for all other deals going forward. So you're standing for, one customer, they wanted to help a particular industry, and so when they do deals with external vendors, and those external vendors want exclusivity, well, the question is this the best result? Whilst the cash might be good, and that might seem in short term a good deal, what does it look like long term? And what if there's a whole range of people in the marketplace and that vendor only really serves 30%? Well, you're losing 60% for your money. And by just thinking about what your values and mission is, I know that sounds really soft, and once again, engineers in the audience are going to go,
what does that mean?
Give me a break. But, it could just be, what does the software stand for? What do we stand for? Because if you don't stand for anything, you'll fall for everything. And that's why there's a lot of scams out there. A lot of people get sucked into stuff because they don't have a clear idea what they're here for. So that's the first thing. So brand positioning. Mm-hmm. Second of all is how effective is your marketing? And marketing effectiveness could be just, how am I helping the marketplace? What is my secret sauce? Oh, and this is another thing that engineers think that they need to keep to themselves, which is completely false. Their secret sauce. You can actually go ahead and explain. If somebody goes through all my content and goes onto my website and downloads the guides that I provide, you've pretty much got my entire business in writing with guides and checklists. We charge $5,000 to do a case study for a business. We go do a filming, we write the case study, we do all of this stuff, but then we put it into a checklist. We made it look really pretty, and we give it as a free as a download on our website. So the how-to is very low value in my hierarchy compared to the execution.
Yeah, I agree with that, because how-to doesn't really matter if you've got no capability to deliver on it. So you get someone out there that's going to run their own production and video and case study, it's probably going to be a half-assed job and not come out spectacular. So that's everything. That's it. If they're going to invest the time to learn it and do it, that's probably going to cost them a hell of a lot more money than it is to work with someone like yourself. So that's people I think when you're in the early stages of business, you don't think that way. You think you need to do everything. But if you really want to scale and move fast, you need help from other people. That's the reality. Yeah, it's team that's most important. It's the external people that you work with. It's not going to take one person to get to the top of the mountain. It takes a herd of people to get there. So yeah, it's very important.
You're so right. I've just changed my model of my business because I really wanted to make sure we're delivering massive value to our clients. And so what we had to do is we had to start running a project/agency style of business. So now I have a project manager that sits next to me virtually. Yes. Nobody's virtually sits next to me and runs the teams and does the task management. And same in developing a piece of software or running a tech project. If you have all the technicians communicating with the customer, first of all, it's going to bend the technician's head, and then they're actually not going to get any work done. Oh, so before I was talking about brand is number one, marketing effectiveness. So you want to be able to give away some of your secret sauce. You want to build an email list and then communicate with that email list and offer value. Don't just go buy because that's not going to work. Or actually it will work to a point where they unsubscribe and you've lost a strategic advantage of having that. Yeah. Because Andrew,
that's an important point you raised there. Because how do you manage that? Giving away a lot of content. There's a few questions in there. Building a list, step one. You need a list. You've got to build a list. How does one go about starting that process? The giving away content, 100% agree, been doing that for a long time. How much is too much selling in content and sharing? So that's always a question that I'm digging in on. All right, we want to sell stuff as well. We want to give away some great content, but the objective is to help them achieve their outcomes or whatever it might be and get our product in their hands or our services in terms of helping their business. How do you balance it? What's the balance look like?
So there was half a dozen questions there. I'll see if
we can go through them. List first. How do you build a list?
Yep. Okay, super simple. Mm-hmm. Start with your connections on LinkedIn, message them and say, hey, I'm starting an email list. Would you like to be on it? Or, hey, I've just created the 3-step guide to whatever. Or so one of my things is how to double your marketing effectiveness. Mm-hmm. So doubling your marketing effectiveness ROI. So then we just message that to people and say, hey, we've created this guide for tech businesses to doubling your marketing effectiveness. Would you like a copy? URL, boom, they go in their first name and email address. The less details, the better, just at the beginning. You can get more details once you've developed some trust, but first name and email is probably enough at the moment.
Yeah, that's plenty, yeah.
You can at least say, dear Andrew, here's the thing you requested, all the best. Mm-hmm. So everybody in LinkedIn, message them and say, hey, and you might get 20-30% of, if you've actually addressed a problem that exists in the marketplace, you're going to get 20-30% of people saying yes. Boom, you're in. And most people have got some type of email, some type of LinkedIn list.
Yep.
Of course, you put that on the front page of your website. You identify who you work with and what you're going to give them. If you go to our website, I'm sure you'll provide some links on this on this podcast. So if you go to our website, you go there and you'll say, you'll see the headline that says for software and technology businesses that must generate leads and close sales. Pretty simple stuff.
And straight to the point, very niched, by the way. Yes.
I don't know how to sell sneakers. I read Phil Knight's book called Shoe Dog. I really enjoyed that. It didn't give me any insight on how to sell sneakers.
Yep.
So it was an entertaining book and I got some stuff out of it, but it wasn't about, so I don't know how to do that. And I don't, and maybe I could figure it out, but I don't want to know how to do that. I want to go sell somebody's cool technology that's going to make a significant impact. I got clients who sell software for the concreting industry. You think, concreting, why do they need software? Well, you know what? They need to know where their people are, where their projects are, and when they're getting paid. Simple as that.
Yeah, every business needs some form of technology to serve. That's
business.
One of the challenges, though, building a product for everybody. But we won't go there. We'll talk about niching. So my next question. So we've got an idea how we might start a list, build a list, cultivate a list. LinkedIn's obviously a great place to really get some connections going and then send some information out to them. Next question was really about diving into the fact of content sharing ratio versus sales content ratio. Like, how might you manage that in terms of how do you think about that as a business, and it's what you push down to your customers and say, all right, this is an approach that we've found that's worked.
So some people in the audience might have heard of Gary Vaynerchuk, which is a social media
Gary
dude.
V. Yes.
Gary V's been doing a few things for a while.
A few NFTs, by the way, but
he might be the person that got me actually interested. And I thought to myself, why would I spend one ether on one of his awful drawings?
Yes.
And now I look at...
Have you seen the price of those things?
20 ether?
Yeah, some are 15, 20, give or take. Yep.
Very disappointing. Anyway, but...
I asked myself the same question, but yeah, I didn't buy one either.
That's true. I just want to buy a JPEG of an ape and retire. Anyway, so I think... So he has a saying called jab, 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 right hook. So give, ask. Right? So simple as that. It's pretty hot in Queensland. I'm sweating.
Too much pressure questions here, mate.
Oh yeah, you're grilling me.
Yeah.
I usually put together in my emails, but every single email I send out has a link to my website, has a little offer. If you've got my emails in the past, it says, P.S. We've got lots of content for sales and marketing in the software and technology space. Click here to check it out. That's just in the email signature.
Do you track data on that sort of stuff? In terms of
absolutely. I track data. I love a bit of technology. I got it all. I know where every lead comes from.
We won't dive into that too much. But it's something to think about if you're going into marketing in terms of how you're tracking your data, what's working, what's not.
Absolutely. Track it and know where it's coming from so you can double down on what's working and bin what's not. Because, unlike code, and this is another thing that really bends programmers' heads and technical people's heads is the statistics don't tell the story. Unless you've got $1 million marketing budget and you can throw a lot out there and you gather a lot of data, it's very, very difficult to actually identify exactly where if you're only making very small moves with a limited budget, it's very difficult to make those moves by yourself without having some knowledge in the background. So that's why, often in my advisory, I'll say, hey, do this, and it'll seem counterintuitive for them, but because I've done it, I've had some customers spending $20,000 a month on marketing. I know how I can navigate those little areas.
Okay. Yep,
so
makes sense.
how often is at the bottom of every email, just ask them to go to your website. I probably send out a helpful email once a week, and I'll do that for a couple of months even. And then I'll send out a thing called a 9-word email. And the 9-word email is, hi, Andrew, are you still interested in ... Are you still interested in making more sales, generating more leads and closing more business? ? One line. The subject line is one question. People have been on my database for 5 years. We'll still respond to that. And every time I send that out, I get a sale. Every time.
Interesting. Okay.
Time.
I've never heard of a 9-word email. It's first time. So yes, that's obviously just to point it to the point and nothing else.
That's it. Because are you still interested in this? Because you know what? It's a simple question. If they say no, you go, thanks very much. If they say yes, you got to jump on the phone. It's really not. Marketing. Look, marketing doesn't need to be a Jedi mind trick of manipulation. Sales doesn't need to be that. What you do need to do in sales, and we've spoken a lot about marketing, but in sales, we just need to make sure the customer understands the problem that exists really well in stark relief. The question stack is, what's your challenge? How often have you had that occur? How much is it costing you right now? How much will it cost you over the course of the next 12 months to not do anything about it? What have you done up until now to solve that problem? Is this something that needs to be solved in the next 3 months? Like that stack?
Yeah, that's a pretty simple way to approach it. Yep. Because we want to understand their challenges, understand what the outcome is for them if they do solve it. That's it. Etc. Yep.
And if they say at any point they go, I'm not really that motivated, you go, well, it doesn't occur to me this is a good fit just now. Do you mind if I send you an email every now and then? It helps out software and technology businesses do better marketing. They go, yep, sure. No pressure, no stress. what it does do is it gives and allows you to continue to communicate with them. If you try to bash them into buying something, you're going to be out the door really fast.
Yeah, I think that's something I'm conscious of. It's just probably underselling ourselves, let alone bashing them. So yeah, it's about I'm more of the vein of, all right, share a lot more, but yeah, how do we be smarter about how we might communicate? So that's a bit of a selfish question there.
Yep. But Andrew, actually, one thing I wanted to add to that is that everything that you say let's say that I'm the salesperson, that's pretty easy to figure out. Let's say I'm the salesperson, but everything I say as a salesperson or as a business owner trying to sell to you is layered and tarnished with the sale spectre. So every time that if I make an assertion, if I provide an idea, it smells of this person just wants to make a sale. The flip side of that is if when I'm communicating with a customer and I ask them how they're, how long is the problem and what have you done to solve it and what's the cost of the problem, if they continue to expose their own bruise, expose their own issues, everything that they say is true and correct because they're the ones saying it. So then
I agree with that, yeah. I think one advantage of being in solutions is you learn that. It's not about, especially when it's custom, like we're involved in a custom solution space. It's all about what's the problem, how do you solve it, what's the problem, what's the pain point, etc. So that helps when you go into product selling, and I think you need to think like a solution salesman in product anyway, because you are providing a solution, and I think that's where some people get a little bit lost in product. It's, here's the features, this is what it does, you want to buy it, and that's not what's going to help you along the line. So
it's not going to work. And you just fall into this category and you get off the call, and if you've been a technician and you sort of have to be a salesperson because it's a relatively new business, you sort of get off and feel a bit icky, and you go, well, I don't want to call that person now because I've sort of embarrassed myself and I've asked a hard question and they said no, and
what do I do now?
What do I do now? So look, there's a whole bunch of things that inside sales and marketing I've done a career. But the third thing, and first thing I talked about was brand. Second thing was marketing. Third thing is obviously conversion. So if people perceive your brand as good, you generate the lead. The third thing is conversion, and conversion doesn't need to be Wolf of Wall Street. Buy it now or your children are going to hate you forever. That doesn't work anymore. And if it does work, what you do is you generate really crummy customers who bog down your customer service.
You don't want buyer's regret. That's
buyer's regret.
Yeah, you don't want that at all, because that becomes problematic in terms of operation. So yeah, you need to be conscious of that too.
Oh man, the buyer's regret's a big thing. So anyway, you're just going to make sure that the people listening and can understand how to build a question stack. And I call it a question stack because, well, it sort of works in the logical order that most of my customers think. And you just ask a series of questions, and then at the end of it, you say, well, it occurs to me to be a good fit. Do you mind if I tell you a bit about what we do? The person's going to go, yeah, that sounds okay, because they've been doing all the talking. They sort of feel relief because they've been, I've been telling you about all of my problems and all of the things I've been doing wrong and all the money I've spent over the last 2-3 years to get here. And so I say, well, we typically work with people who are ready to X, Y, Z. And the good thing is, because you've listened and cared about what there's been saying, if your solution genuinely can solve their problem, then you can say, well, people typically buy from us when they're ready to grow their software and technology business. That's what I say. They're tired of wasting money on marketing ideas and avenues they don't know, and they want to raise the number of high quality customers, and they want to reduce the number of C-class customers in the database. Does that make sense?
That's a clear proposition as well, because it's niched, right? So it makes plenty of sense, and I think that's one of the points of niching, because you can't make a statement like that at a general broad brush stroke. It just doesn't get there. So it all goes back to that niche proposition, or who are we targeting, and then what problems are you actually solving for that group of people, and it just shows it. I think it's a good explanation of top down what it can achieve, and to get to some simple statements that people are going to. If you're in front of the right customer at the right time, they're going to actually say, yes, I'm interested in something like that. Yep. And
then the last stage really is to monetize the sales process. So many so many technical people will go ahead and, okay, there's two problems. So I've got category of two here.
Yeah,
I know we're going a bit long, but I really want to.
It's all good, mate. No, there's plenty in this. Yeah,
okay.
Go for it.
So there's two things here. So I like to talk in stories. So imagine you go to the hospital. Imagine you've broken your arm, right? And if your mind runs away with you like mine does, I go, well, am I ever going to be able to use it anymore? This looks really bad. I'm panicking, start hyperventilating. It's all bad. It's all gone horribly wrong. You get to the hospital, and if the doctor turns around and says, "Oh, look, Matthew, we see this 10 times a day. You don't have to worry about it. We'll be able to do this, this, and this, and you'll be fine." Psychologically, immediately the pain is reduced. So how does that relate to selling software and technology? I've got this logistics problem that's costing me $15 million a year. I'm going to get the sack because the CFO is on my back about this, that, and the other. Really got to solve this. And the technical person, what do they say? Don't worry about it. We do this all the time. I can click a few buttons and solve all these problems. The pain goes down. The enthusiasm to buy, whilst you think might actually go up, it doesn't, because the perceived cost, the perceived pain of never being able to use your arm again has gone down. You go, oh, well, now I can take my time making a purchasing decision. Now I can maybe talk to some other vendors. Maybe I can just chill out a little bit. And the CFO comes along and says, what's going on with this $15 million bleed? You go, look, Barry, it's all good. Found a vendor that can solve it in like 2 weeks. I want to make sure we're choosing the right vendor. And Barry goes, good call, Jeff. All the pain has gone away. So this is the problem that the technical people do, is they take all the pain away by saying it's easy to solve. But you're 25 years or 13 or 15 years or however long it took you to build that amazing AI or incredible workflow or satellite, whatever, is not easy. I'm sorry.
No, not at all. It might be easy now, but not to get there, right? It's
easy now because you've built it. But, you've got... then they go, oh, well, if it's easy for these guys to do it, maybe I can just scope it out and get some outsource company in Mumbai to do it.
Yeah, makes logical sense.
These guys are charging me $500,000 for it, so maybe I can get it for like $100,000.
And then they're shopping around all of a sudden. Yes.
So that's the issue. There is the idea of being able to solve the problem is reduces the pain. The second thing about sales is a lot of technical people will give a lot. They will say, oh, we need a quote on this, and what happens, and I've seen it time and time again, they will go ahead and build an entire scope of work to create a quote.
Seen that before. Used to do that before, and you pull your hair out while you're making no money. But yes, and you're breaking even or losing money on projects.
Losing
That's
money.
The reason. Yeah.
So what I do now is I recommend that every single business needs to monetize their sales process.
But your value is in that, and I think people need to realise that that's where all their value is. We learnt that the hard way, but that's what DevReady is. It's a consulting piece of work that is all about helping people get clarity on their scope of work, on what they want to develop and the impact they want to make in the industry and how they're going to pull that together. That's where all the smarts is. That's where all the value is. I think people need to understand that their value is the knowledge, not the code they produce at the end of it, because the code they produce at the end of it should be based on the knowledge that they're bringing to the table. So that's where the value is. And I 100% agree with that. It's made a massive difference to our business.
That's why I liked your business when I first spoke to you many months ago, probably before Christmas, actually.
Yeah, I think it was.
Actually, it was before Christmas.
Yeah.
Is you guys already have those things in place. You already understand that scoping, discovery, use cases, user stories, screen flow, all of that stuff is the stuff, is your smarts, is your, hey, we've seen it done this way, and only provide that know-how once you're getting paid, because free consulting is appropriately priced, and people take free consulting and they value it as free, therefore no value.
Correct. Yeah, they don't understand the value if you're giving it away. They're happy to just take that advice, but then they don't really value it either. Like but if they're paying for it, they're coming, they're switched on, and they're in it with you, and that's just changes the game. And you deal with better customers in the end, people that really want to get things done, not people that are just exploring. And you can end up in a position where you're scoping, quoting on things, which takes you 2 weeks, whatever it might be, and those people weren't really that interested, nor had the budget, nor were qualified. That's a big issue.
And it also puts a shot across the bow to their procurement process. So if you're selling to a large corporate or a large multi-layered corporate, look, I've helped businesses sell products to, the biggest mining companies in the world. But in that process, what we did is we built a process where the audit is $30,000. Before even any real work is done, we need to understand the state of play right now. What is it? So, but for some businesses, it's some of my customers, it's $1,000.
Yeah, but that piece of work is where knowledge is. That's where the value really is, because that audit provides the clarity to give the direction as to where you're taking it. Giving it away is what we used to do. And you think back and think, how crazy were we? But that is one of the things I learned across the journey, and highly recommended that everyone looks at that. So I would agree, definitely. No, brilliant. It's been a really good episode. I think I've got to get you back when Anthony's back on board. I think we'll do another episode, because there's some other things I want to ask you, but I think we'll wrap up there, because we're going for a while. We can go for ages, I'm imagining. Another
all the
hour.
chapters that I've talked about, I could go super deep and super niche on all of those. So because that's what we do, because we are in the software space, we know these things. So happy to have another go at it. And you really, even if there was like a Q&A, like a customer, somebody goes, how do we solve this problem? Hey, put me to the test, get me to sweat more. Might have to put the air conditioning on soon.
No, brilliant, Matt. It's been an absolute pleasure getting you on board. We'll share show notes and everything about Tech Talk and yourself through LinkedIn posts, etc. So thanks for coming on board. Really appreciate your time, and we'll speak soon, definitely.
Very good. Thanks very much. And one last thing, if anybody wants to figure out where they sit within the branding and the marketing and the conversion space, so I've created a little test. So it's about 20 questions in each one of those 3 categories. And then what it does is it provides you a report on what areas you need to focus on to create the biggest impact. So it's a free little test. Go through that. It takes about 3 minutes to do. And after that, you'll get a report and say, you need to focus on these 2 areas. And you can just go ahead and do that stuff. So it's a sort of a focus finder. Yeah, and that, I can give you the link on that as well if you like.
Yeah, we'll share that out with the show. Sounds really good, mate. I appreciate it.
All right, mate.
Thanks for your
really
time.
Appreciate it. Catch you later.
Speak soon.